Green leaves unfurling in hot water. That's green tea, the most ordinary drink on earth, in half the kitchens on the planet. But there's a legend about where it came from, and it tells you everything about what it was actually for. As the story goes, a monk named Bodhidharma, the man who brought Zen Buddhism to China and is tied to the Shaolin Temple, sat down to meditate facing a cave wall, and he vowed to do it for 9 years without ever sleeping. Years in, his body betrayed him and his eyes closed. When he woke and realized he'd failed, he was so furious at his own weakness that he cut off his own eyelids and threw them to the ground. And where they landed, the first tea plant grew. Its leaves, brewed into a drink, banished sleep and cleared the mind. That's the green tea method, and here's what almost everyone gets wrong about it. This is not a story about focus, it's a story about discipline. Stay with me, because by the end you'll understand why the most disciplined humans who ever lived chose the gentlest stimulant on earth on purpose. The real science of what it does to your brain, and the one thing about brewing it that decides whether you get any of the benefit at all. Let's talk about what's being sold to you. Green tea today is a fat burner in a capsule. It's a sugary drink in a plastic bottle. It's an extract in a nootropic stack, marketed as an effortless hack. Drink this and melt fat. Drink this and live forever. Drink this and get more without doing more. And here's the irony, because it's almost perfect. The people who actually built their lives around this drink used it for the exact opposite reason. They didn't use it to get more. They used it to want less, to need less, to sit still longer, and endure more. We took a tool of self-denial and turned it into a promise of effortless gain. That's not just wrong, it's backwards. So let's go to the monastery. The Shaolin monks are the most famous disciplinarians in human history. Pre-dawn rising, hours of kung fu, long meditation, temple labor, and a deliberately, almost brutally plain diet. And that diet is the key to understanding the tea, because of what it leaves out. The monks are vegetarian, no meat, but they go further than that. They also avoid what are called the 5 pungents, things like garlic and onion, because those foods were believed to stir up desire, restlessness, and aggression, the exact opposite of what a meditating mind needs. So picture the system they built. They stripped their diet of anything stimulating, anything indulgent, anything that agitates the body or the mind, on purpose. It's an entire life engineered to be quiet, and into that silence they allowed one stimulant, green tea, just one. Think about how deliberate that is. In a life designed to remove every agitation, they made a single exception, and it wasn't for a stronger drug, it was for the mildest one available. Hold on to that, because the reason why is the whole point of this video, and it's the thing modern science can finally explain. Now, before the science, one honest caveat. Green tea has caffeine. Less than coffee, roughly 1/5 to 1/2 as much per cup, but it's real, so not late at night, and if you're very sensitive or pregnant, keep it moderate. You'll also hear that green tea can hurt your liver. Here's the honest version. Those rare cases are tied to concentrated green tea extract pills, the fat burner capsules, not to actually drinking the tea. Drink the tea, skip the high dose extract, and one that matters especially here, since the monks are vegetarian and a lot of you chasing this are too. The compounds in green tea block your body from absorbing iron, so drink it between meals, not with them. None of this is dangerous. It's just how you use the tool correctly. Now here's why the monks chose it. So here's the thing that makes green tea different from coffee, and it's why it was the right tool for discipline. It contains caffeine, which you know, it makes you alert by blocking the brain chemical that makes you drowsy. But it also contains a rare amino acid called L-theanine, and this is the part that matters. L-theanine is found almost nowhere in nature except the tea plant, and here's the key fact. Almost nobody knows. Its molecular structure is remarkably similar to 2 of your brain's most important messenger chemicals, glutamate and GABA. That similarity lets it gently influence your brain's signaling, nudging you toward a state that's calm and alert at the same time. So when caffeine and L-theanine come in together, the way they do in tea, the caffeine gives you the wakefulness, and the L-theanine files off its sharp edges. You get alertness without the jitter, without the racing heart, and crucially, without the crash. And that, right there, is why a monk chose tea and not something stronger. Think about what a stronger stimulant does. Coffee, and definitely anything past it, pushes you, speeds you up, makes you restless, and then drops you into a crash an hour later. For a monk, trying to sit perfectly still for hours in deep meditation, that would be a disaster. Restlessness is the enemy of meditation. What he needed was to defeat drowsiness without becoming agitated, wakefulness without the wire. And that specific, narrow effect is exactly, almost uncannily, what green tea delivers. They didn't choose the gentlest stimulant because it was all they had. They chose it because gentle was the entire point. Here's something you can feel for yourself, and it's the whole distinction in one cup. Next time you'd normally reach for a coffee, brew a cup of green tea instead and drink it slowly. Then just watch the next hour and pay attention not to what you feel, but to what you don't. There's no racing heart, no restless need to move energy, no moment 60 minutes later where you crash and start eyeing a second cup. Instead, there's a kind of level, quiet alertness that just stays with you, steady the whole time. That absence, the absence of the spike and the crash, that flat, sustained clarity is the exact thing a monk needed to sit still and disciplined for hours. Coffee pushes you. Green tea just quietly keeps the lights on. Once you feel that difference directly, you understand the whole choice. Now here's the part that's genuinely useful, because it's the one thing you control and almost everyone gets it wrong. How you brew green tea decides what you actually get out of it. And this is a real trade-off that science has now measured. A 2025 study looked at what temperature does to the leaf, and it found something you can use. Hotter water, close to boiling, pulls more caffeine and more L-theanine out of the leaf, so a hotter brew gives you a stronger version of that alert but calm effect. But, and here's the catch, that same high heat destroys the delicate antioxidant in green tea, the one called EGCG, that all the health headlines are about. So there's a fork in the road, and it's yours to choose. Want the mental effect, the wakefulness and the calm? Brew it a little hotter. Want to protect the antioxidants? Keep the water cooler, around 175 degrees, well below boiling. What you must never do is pour furiously boiling water on green tea, because that scorches it, makes it punishingly bitter, and needlessly wrecks the very compounds you paid for. This is the lever. It's in your hands, on your counter, every single time you make a cup. And now you know which way to push it. Now, about those antioxidants, because I promise to be straight with you. Green tea is genuinely rich in antioxidants, and there's real credible research here. Health authorities note that green tea can modestly lower cholesterol and modestly help with body weight, and populations that drink a lot of it show lower rates of some diseases. That's real and it's worth having. But notice the word I keep using, modestly. The wild claims that green tea melts fat off your body, that it prevents cancer, that it adds years to your life. Those are mostly early lab studies and population correlations, not proof. So here's the honest scorecard. The gentle, crash-free alertness, the thing the monks actually used it for, is the part that's solidly real. The miracle cure marketing wrapped around it is mostly hype. And the remarkable thing, again, is that the genuinely proven benefit is the exact one those monks were after 800 years ago. But the tea was never the point, and this is the part almost everyone misses. Because green tea did not make the Shaolin who they are. Let me say that as clearly as I can, because the internet loves to imply otherwise. The tea did not give them superhuman strength. It did not power their kung fu. Their discipline did that. Years of relentless training, meditation, and self-denial did that. Green tea was one small deliberate tool inside that enormous system, and its job was humble and specific. Keep the eyes open and the mind clear, so the real work, the discipline, could be done. That's the reveal. It fits a philosophy the monks live by, that you cultivate the body through stillness and cultivate virtue through frugality. The plain diet, the plain tea, the removal of every indulgence, none of it was deprivation for its own sake. It was a technology for building a mind that doesn't break, and the tea's entire role was to serve that. It kept a monk awake long enough to forge the discipline. It never was the discipline. So let's clear up the myths this drink is buried under. The first, that green tea is a fat-burning, disease-curing miracle. The honest version is smaller and more useful. Reliable, gentle alertness, and modest help with cholesterol and weight. That's it, and that's still good. The second, that green tea gave the Shaolin their power. No, their discipline gave them their power. The tea only kept them awake to build it. The third myth, that a stronger stimulant would have served them better. The exact opposite is true. The most disciplined people who ever lived deliberately chose the mildest stimulant they could, because a still mind, not a wired one, was the goal. And the last myth, that green tea is just green tea, that the bag is fine. How you brew it changes everything. The temperature and the steep time decide whether you get calm alertness, antioxidants, or just a bitter cup. It's the one lever you control, and most people pull it the wrong way. Which brings us to what we actually lost. We didn't lose green tea. It's everywhere, more than ever. What we lost is what it was for. To a Shaolin monk, this was the servant of self-control, a humble tool inside a life built around wanting less and enduring more. We turned it into a shortcut, a fat burner pill, and a sugary bottle that promised you more with no effort at all. We kept the leaf and threw away the entire point of it. The monks didn't drink it to escape discipline. They drank it to sustain it. So here's how to actually use it, the right way. Start with real loose leaf green tea, a sencha, a dragon well, a gunpowder green, over the dusty stuff in cheap bags, because you get more flavor, more re-steeps, and more of everything that matters. Use about a teaspoon per cup. Now the temperature, which you already understand is the lever. Never use boiling water. If you don't own a thermometer, boil your kettle and then let it sit and cool for about 2 minutes before you pour, or splash in a little cold water first. You're aiming for water that's steaming, not violently bubbling, and a brewed cup that comes out a pale, clear gold green, not dark and murky. Steep it for 1 to 3 minutes, and here's the key. Taste it at 1 minute. Oversteeping is the single most common mistake, and it turns the cup bitter and harsh. Then pull the leaves out. Don't let them sit. And here's the frugal monastic move most people don't know. Good loose leaf will give you 2 or 3 more infusions, and the second steep is often the smoothest of all. Then drink it the way it was meant to be drunk. Plain. No sugar, no milk. Sweetening it buries the effect and misses the entire point, and milk can bind up the antioxidants. And use it like the monks did, not chugged like an energy drink, but as a deliberate ritual before something that demands sustained self-control, a focused work session, study, training, meditation. Brew it slowly, sit with it, and let that level alertness carry you through the hard thing. Here's what to expect over time. The first cup, honestly, you might miss the aggressive kick of coffee because this is quieter. But after a week or 2 of using it deliberately, most people stop wanting the spike. You start to notice you got through a long, focused stretch without a crash, without the afternoon collapse, without needing a second and a third cup. That steadiness is the whole gift, and it's exactly what a life of discipline runs on. The mistakes to avoid: boiling the water, oversteeping, drowning it in sugar, and treating it like a quick hit instead of a steady tool. Get those right, and you're drinking it the way a monk did. A monk once cut off his own eyelids rather than let himself sleep. That's a legend, of course, but it survived for a reason, because it captures something true, that this humble green drink was born from and built for discipline. It kept the most disciplined humans on earth awake and clear, while they did the hard, quiet, unglamorous work of forging themselves. It never did the work for them. Nothing does. But it kept the lights on while they did it. And now you know exactly what it's for and exactly how to use it. If this changed how you think about that cup of green tea, subscribe, because we're breaking down the real fuel behind these cultures one food at a time. And tell me in the comments, what ancient diet or method do you want broken down next? I'm reading them, and the best ones become the next video.